ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast, episode 18 for broadcast on the 22nd of January 2021. I'm your co-host, Conal O'Moran. However, the other co-host, Caoimhe Heery, still cannot be with us, so I'm flying solo today. Enjoy the flight. If you are an employer, sit back and take your Valium while we tell you what lighting, chairs, desks, screens, equipment, heating, electricity you may be legally obliged to supply to your employees. And if you're an employee, break out the pencil and paper and start looking up the expensive end of the home office furniture catalogues, as you will not be paying for it. We always try to break new ground in business, and today is no exception. You can now tell the world that you first heard of the sonic handshake on episode 18 of That Great Business Show. You'll have to stay listening to find out what that is about, but we can say that it could mean that hackers won't be able to lock you out of or into your office, factory, or even a hospital if that's where your place of work is. And you say tomato and I say tomato. You say kombucha, they say kombucha. We also have the story of a Hello Magazine marketeer who shunned the bright lights of London and headed to Ferbane in County Offaly to establish her own Kombucha brand that will hopefully cure her of that itch all wannabe self-employeds suffer from. And you can contact That Great Business Show right across social media. We have our website, not surprisingly called thatgreatbusinessshow.com, and we do loads on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, right across all the best podcast even platforms. That Great Business Show is brought to you by That Great Shaving Oil, defactoshave.com. It's a shaving oil, not a beard oil, and it is unique. Mayo-made formula means an end to cuts, nicks, and razor burns for men and women. It's the best anyone can get.
That Great Business Show.
Now, we really only try to be positive and helpful with our business insights on That Great Business Show. Sometimes we spot something that we think others have not spotted, but that is essential for employers and employees to know about. For example, how many of you have read the Working from Home COVID-19 Bill 2020? This bill, soon possibly to be law, may compel employers of employees who normally work at workstations to supply workstations if they need them to work from home due to the COVID emergency measures. And there's more, much more. While you were busy trying to keep your business open, it's good to know that the Health and Safety Authority was busy preparing a checklist of what else you need to supply to your employees whilst working from their homes, including advice on flickering screens and whether employees have been informed of what way they should relax their shoulders when viewing the said same screen. As well as being massively impractical, this could be a massive extra financial burden on employers. So, we don't panic on your behalf, but we do phone our go-to lawyer in this field. That is Caoimhe Heery, a partner with Flynn O'Driscoll, one of the largest commercial law firms in the country. Caoimhe, this could cost struggling businesses an awful lot of money.
It could, Conal, and thank you very much for having me here. I suppose one of the things to remember is that while it may cost you money, should you not do it and should you not comply with the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Act, which is what that part is, that it might even cost you more money or it might even raise your insurance should any employee try to take a claim against you for any sort of, occupational injury. And I think what a lot of employers forget and what we're trying to remind people is that, they have the same obligations towards their employees in terms of health and safety as they do when they're at home, as they do when they're at work. And that's nothing new. The idea of remote working has been coming up an awful lot over the last couple of years. And many employers, even prior to COVID, they were transitioning employees at that stage. But because of everything that's gone on with COVID and how everybody was forced in this, one day back March that we never thought would ever happen, where we all had to run home all of a sudden and grab screens and some of us even grabbed chairs. And, I have a desk coming from my husband's office tomorrow, but we have to ensure, and I'm sorry to say, it is important that employers recognise that those obligations are there and they've always been there.
Okay, depress the employers and tell them exactly what they should know about. Give me part, because it's a long list, just part of the long list that they are expected to provide for employees?
Yeah, so in essence, what they have to do is provide an employee with a safe place of work. And a safe place of work also includes safe equipment. And I think the best and simplest way to do that is to make sure that you've risk assessed the area. And your face is priceless when I say you have to risk assess the area, because how do I do that?
Exactly,
How do you do it?
Mary is working, say she's working in Coolock and she's living down in Wicklow, and Jack is living in Swords, and they're both in small apartments. Who's going to go around and do that?
Well, we always have to have a middle ground. So what I would say is that the best way to do that is to have your checklist, have the list of things that you would normally do in an onboarding with an employee, such as, checking I'm sitting right, making sure the light in my area is accurate. Have the list. The HSA, as you mentioned, they have a list. The Department of Enterprise Trade and Employment, they have a checklist. Sit down with the checklist over Zoom, get your employee to do that. And I suppose the best way to look at it is the more I do to ensure that my employee doesn't have an injury, the better way I'm going to be able to defend any claim should my employee take a claim against me. So I think you need to be checking all of those issues. And the one thing as well that people are forgetting about at the moment is the issue of stress, because many employees obviously are feeling the stress at home. And that's also covered within that checklist from the HSA. So there's all these issues that employers need to be thinking about. One of the other ones that I think people find very shocking, and when I say it to employers, they're like, there's no way we can do that. That's just not happening, is in terms of the Organisation of Working Time Act and the hours that people are working from home. Because we're actually hearing that people are nearly doing the hours that they would have been doing commuting because they feel like they have to. While employers are probably saying, I don't have any, how can I do this? How can I check what my employee is working or not working? Well, that obligation was there already as well.
How do they check?
Simple. You get your employee to write it out. You look at your KPIs. I think some employers are fearful that they're being taken advantage of by their employees at home. And if that is the case and you have that fear, then you're probably not performance managing your employees correctly if there is that issue of trust, etc. So you need to be recording that time. And there is a form, it's called an OWT1 form, which actually lists out, because I've had people say, what am I meant to do? Get a computer program? Have I get people to click in and click out every single time? I mean, if you don't have time for that, write it out. Get the employee to sign it.
Caoimhe,
yes,
we are a podcast aimed at small and medium enterprises. They have not just enough, they are teetering on the brink of extinction. And a legal system that is now, particularly if it's a short-term thing, hopefully with the end of the pandemic, that is forcing employers, or these rules and regulations on employers, it's not fit for purpose. And surely a judge would say, look, we have to be understanding of where we are in this pandemic. I won't ask you to start recommending what kind of desks people need to have, but it does specify an ergonomic one. You can add it as an extra zero to the price of that. Let us say that the pandemic ends, hopefully by, take a date, September. What happens to all of these expensive ergonomic desks that no smaller or medium enterprise can probably afford in the first place?
Yeah, I know that is a problem. And unfortunately, I can't give you a solution to that, because of the fact that, the responsibility is there. And while you might think a judge might be flexible about it, I'd say the one thing they would say is, has the employer acted reasonable? Has it done all that it could, bearing in mind the specific employer? So if it was the case that you had desks in the office that you think you could farm out, or, cheaper desks, but ones that would just be more suitable, I think they would consider that. But if it's the fact that you've just gone no and not considered anything and not risk assessed it, then that's where your problem is going to arise.
Many of our more successful startups they may not be happy about it, but they do work very successfully from the kitchen table. Don't think kitchen tables are ergonomically designed. Does that count? Or, where is the wriggle room here? And there must be.
I think the wriggle room would just be looking at where they're working, what the situation is, how they're sitting, and making sure that there isn't a potential risk to the employee. And I do say that, it may sound facetious and say everybody has to do it, but that's the law. You have to do it. If you were to say, I don't have time to check and make sure that the electrics are proper in the office because I'm a small business, and then there's a fire and an employee is injured. It's the same idea. You need to make sure that you've risk assessed everything and said, right, if there is a risk to my employee, I have to do all that I can to minimize that risk. And even from an insurance perspective, your insurers are going to want to make sure that you've done this too. So, that's a real consideration.
And as we know, a lot of the employees in smaller firms, they are taking on this burden themselves as well. And they are working from home in probably tremendously unsuitable situations, but there's no getting away from it. That you cannot go down to the shared office space or whatever. You probably or possibly are working from your bedroom. Again, ergonomic? No.
No, it's not. And it's not going to be ergonomic. But as I said, unfortunately, we do have to go back to what the law is. And the law is as it stands. And I know in a comparable situation, we've talked about the Organisation of Working Time Act and how that says that there's certain hours that you have to work. And I know employers would have said, well, if my employee can't do their job and they're actually working out of hours because of the fact that they need to catch up, that's not my fault. Like, why should that be my problem? And, we saw a case a couple of years ago, which actually is very mindful at the moment, the Keepak and O'Hara case, where the employer said, look, this employee, in essence, she was sending emails and getting emails at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever time outside of working hours. We weren't asking her to do that, but she went ahead and did it anyway. Like, how's that my problem? What am I meant to do?
Now, what did Mr. or Mrs. Judge say about that?
Oh, you won't be happy with this. So Mr. Judge, or I think it wasn't Mr. Judge, I believe, in maybe the Labour Court, said that actually the law is that you must not permit, or an employer must not permit their employees to work more than 48 hours per week. And in that situation, because the employer knew, because they were sending the emails, they knew they were working more than the 48 hours. And in that case, it was the employer's responsibility. So I think in essence, what they were trying to say was, look, you should have performance managed this issue without letting the employee get to the stage where they were working those hours. But the issue is, it's very clear you must not permit the employee to work past those hours. And I think something that people are also forgetting about at the moment is, we have an amendment to the Terms of Employment Information Act, and that actually also says that you need to be telling employees when they're starting the normal hours per day and per week you expect them to work at. So I know one of the things that's been coming up at the moment is this right to disconnect. While it was, I think, 1997, maybe, the Organisation of Working Time Act, and it probably didn't envisage all these sort of having your email beside you in bed and all that sort of stuff. It did, in essence, give that right to disconnect by the limit of the hours and the daily rest breaks and all of that. So it isn't new. While the circumstances might be new, the situation really, I don't think, is.
Have there been, or have you seen any cases around this general issue, or these general issues, that you just went, God, that's just ridiculous?
There have been some, probably some which I can't mention.
No, they're the ones we want to hear.
And they're the ones I can't tell you. But I know, there was one of the things I saw recently enough in terms of the right to disconnect. I mean, even from my own personal perspective, like, I have a toddler at home. I want to be home by a certain time so I can make the dinner and put her to bed before I keep working. And in terms of the right to disconnect, if it came in a very rigid format where it says, right, your normal working day is 9 to 6. You're not allowed to do emails 9 to 6. For me personally, I'd find that discriminated against me, as a mother nearly, because and a working mother at that I want to be able to say, well, no, hold on. I'm taking this 2-hour break when this suits me best. And if I want to check my emails thereafter, then I will. I'm just not going to completely work up to that certain time and say, oh God, I have to get all this done by that time, because that's going to actually stress me out more. Personally, I would find. The other thing I did see, which I found was quite a high award actually, was this right to disconnect has been in France for a couple of years. And I think we all know the company Rentokil. So they're in France as well. And I think they were one of the first companies to fall foul of this under the French legislation. So they were brought to, I think it was the Supreme Court in France, and an employee there was awarded €60,000 for a breach of the right to disconnect, because by my reading of it, now I haven't been able to read the full judgment, obviously it's in French. So, by my reading of it, it appears what they kind of expected him just to have his phone there. So if there was an emergency out of hours, that he'd be the one that would be able to be called, which some people mightn't consider as, really that onerous. But obviously under the French law, that was it. Supreme Court, no. And €60,000 was awarded to the employee. So, what I would say, really importantly, and this is coming up an awful lot, when this code of practice is being drafted and when we're saying, right, we're going to legislate on the rights and, the rights for flexible working and also the right to ask for remote working, we need to ensure that there's a flexibility there. Because even for employees and employers, in our business, we might have a transaction to do over the weekend and we might get that time back, but we couldn't do our job if we're limited in the hours. And we're not the only ones. There's a lot of people that would be the same.
This is at bill stage at the moment, or some of these issues are at bill stage. Is there a way that people can actually make their voices heard?
Well, at the moment, and I think the cutoff might have been, it's either today or tomorrow, there is a consultation process going on the right to disconnect. Actually, I'm sure it's today, which is a good time for you to be saying this. But there was a whole consultation. And all of the time when the department is doing things like this, they do have a consultation process and they do invite people to come and speak and say, right, how does this work from our perspective? So hopefully that they will take on some of those submissions from the employers. And I know people like IBEC, etc., they get involved in that to make sure that the employer's voice is heard when these things are being drafted. Now, we do have to say that, the right to disconnect is going to be a code of practice. A code of practice it's a weird animal in the fact that, it's not legislation in terms of something that has to be abided by. It's a guidance. But at the same time, if you're up in front of the WRC and you haven't complied with the code of practice, then, they're going to rule against you. So you just have to make sure that you do abide by all of those things.
The rules around the 48 hours working, any founder could be an employee. I'm going to ask you kind of a weird technical thing here now. That person could be an employee of the company, yet that person, man or woman, could be working 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, for the last couple of weeks, we've had 2 women on who do work those kind of hours.
Yeah.
Are they breaking their own law or breaking the law on themselves, or? Weirdly,
they are, which is really, really entertaining idea from an employment law nerd. But the way I see it is that they're not going to really take a case against themselves for the breach of the Organisation of Working Time Act. But where they could fall foul is if there was ever an inspection from, the WRC inspectorate and they come and say, right, show me the working hours for these employees. And it's a really interesting idea and quite a fun one. But yeah, they would in essence be falling foul of it. Because
Does that not make a complete and utter ass of the law? That I can name them now because I can remember them. It is Tara Lane of Centrepiece Rosettes and Joe Browne of Joe Browne Skincare. They both told me on air, they're proud, that they work. The hours that they work are just mad. 9 a.m. until midnight for Joe Browne.
Yeah, and most startups do that. And it's a fact of life. And I suppose, as I said, there has to be some flexibility there. So I'm not really going to sue myself or take a case to the WRC for myself for breach of the Organisation of Working Time Act. But the problem is it's there to protect other employees as well. So you might be the founder and maybe other employees have interest in the company. But, to make sure that you don't make your own employees work those sort of hours and be careful not to develop that culture within your own employment. Because if you do that, then you are going to fall foul of the Act.
Could an employer of an SME, or within an SME, plead inability to pay? And I'll tell you what I'm thinking here is if the onus is on the employer to provide ergonomic desks, flicker-free screens, which I hope are standard now, the footstools, the famous footstools, it's almost down to having a back massage. There's all this stuff. Surely and many, if not most SMEs are struggling at the moment, could they not put their hands up and say, look, I'd love to adhere to all these rules and regs, but pounds, shillings and pence rule here. I cannot afford it.
No, and I understand that is an issue and many people can't. And I suppose that's where you look at doing risk assessments, seeing what other alternatives are there, seeing what you can do to try and do the best for the health and safety of your employees. I suppose there's also ideas that tax breaks will come in for these sort of things. And maybe if there's grants available that you can look into. But I suppose the important thing is that you've looked into everything that you can possibly do And that's
while
the defense.
trying to run your business.
Yes, while trying to run the business. And the important thing to remember is, and why I keep saying this to people, is this is the law. And while I say unfortunately it's the law, but it is the law. And if you don't comply with it, then
you are guilty.
You are guilty. So, and there's a lot of strict liability around health and safety for the right reasons.
Put on the black hat and hang them, is that it? Or
no. The law is there to assist them as well in a number of ways.
And that's what I mean, that surely there are understanding judges who, they'll understand that it cannot apply, particularly in the middle of this massive pandemic.
Well, that's where I say again, the law is the law. You have to risk assess. If you haven't risk assessed, trained your employees and done your safety statements, then I think you'll have an issue. Whereas if you have done the risk assessments and seen what the best you can do, being reasonable, but, the same employer, let's do the idea of a car or a van that you're sending them out to. Would you say to the employer, well, it's not fair if the employer can't make sure the brake pads are right because they can't afford it. So, I'm just going to send the employee out without the proper brake pads because, my business can't really afford to fix that and the employee has an accident. And, when you think about it in that sort of a scenario, you're not going to be doing that. So is the issue that people are having it because it's at home or is it because it's health and safety?
I love lawyers. They're so practical. I have to accept that is a fair analogy and a fair example. Just to finalise, they're not going to read the act or the bill as it is now. They're not going to read it. Where will they find all the information?
I think there's some good information out there in terms of the Department of Enterprise Employment and Trade Employment's website. Ourselves in FOD, we're also going to be doing a webinar towards the end of February, which will be an update on employment law, but also an update on these areas such as the right for flexible working.
Can anybody dip into that?
You can, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, and then I'll take your details. And as soon as we have the date, etc., I can send out invites, and we'd be glad to have as many people as possible on it.
And my colleague better make sure that FOD is known as Flynn O'Driscoll, because Pat Flynn won't be happy.
He won't be happy with me at all. And just add my colleague Claire McDermott, who's really good employment lawyer as well. She's going to be partaking in that too, and I think it'll be a really interesting. Because not only is this an interesting area, but there's been so many other things in the last year that would make you go mental at me. So I just think really, really interesting things have happened over the last year, and we'll be discussing all of it.
And I presume that this is a free seminar.
It will be as free as a bird.
Well, at least that's some good news. Caoimhe Heery, partner with Flynn O'Driscoll Lawyers, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thank you, Conal.
You're listening to That Great Business Show with Conal O'Moran and Jamie Heaslip. ThatGreatBusinessShow.com.
That Great Business Show is only possible thanks to our sponsor, DeFactoShave.com. They want you to change your ways in 2021. Put away those polluting cans of shaving foam and use Mayo-made De Facto. De Facto is a totally new skincare product created from a blend of 100% natural oils, which virtually eliminates shaving discomforts like nicks, cuts, raw skin, and razor burns. One 50ml bottle of De Facto lasts a year. It's the best anyone can get.
This could be your ad on That Great Business Show.
You can unlock some doors nowadays with the touch of your palm or by the look of your eye, so-called biometric solutions. However, this means that hackers can also hack into your office, factory, or other place of work. They can lock you out, or worse, in case of fire, lock you in until a ransom or similar might be paid. And that's where the Sonic Handshake comes into it. Yes, you heard it here first. A Sonic Handshake, trademarked by Dingle County Kerry company, standard access, and they aim to replace keys and replace them with your phone. Their solutions are advanced enough that they were recently granted patent protection in the US. Damien Browne is the founder of Standard Access, and he joins me here in the Dublin South FM podcast studio. Welcome to That Great Business Show, Damien. Can you start by telling me about your famous Sonic Handshake?
Hi, Conal. Thanks for having us on. Sure. Sonic Handshake is a sonic. It's a sound. It's a sound wave sent from your phone to the door to tell the door to unopen. That's simply how it is. Sent from your phone, and we started this journey about 5 years ago. And we were looking at different technologies to use. I looked at biometrics, like fingerprinting and iris scanning and things like that. But just purely from a privacy, data privacy and personal privacy point of view, it was something we didn't want to get into, because at the end of the day, everything is hackable. So we wanted to do something that respects someone's privacy. So we developed a sonic handshake that identifies somebody with their phone. So the beginning and end of your identification with your phone, not the person.
And I shouldn't even ask this question, but I will, is how come a small company based in Dingle or Dingle down in Caoimhe Heery, how come you guys have cracked the code of the sonic handshake? And I'm sure that there are firms all over the world who are trying and maybe have done something similar, but you've got the patent.
Yeah, we started in 2014 and we looked at using Bluetooth or NFC and, like I said, biometrics, but we wanted to use a technology that, first of all, was respectful of data privacy, but secondly, that everybody could use. You didn't have to have the latest, greatest smartphone to use it. So as you know, every phone and tablet has a speaker and a microphone inside it. So that's where we got the idea to use it. And we wanted a technology that was universal, basically. Tell me the truth now. Whose idea was it? Was one of your colleagues or yourself, or were you sitting in the bath or whatever, and you said, I know what I could do? It was myself. And yes, I'm not a techie at all. But I spoke to my local the Tralee IT at the time, who was now the Munster Technological University, and I said what I wanted to do when they started talking about NFC and Bluetooth. Technologies I didn't particularly like from a security point of view, but also NFC was only available on the Android phones at the time. And I said to them, you know what, do you remember when the mobile phones came out and there'd be an ad on TV and we said, download this ringtone? Remember the frog?
I remember those ones, yeah. Well,
and I just said to the college, wouldn't it be really cool? I said, if you could send a burst of sound to a door and say, hey, it's Connell, let me in. So that's where it started, and that's how we started developing prototypes and concepts around that, and we started our intellectual property journey then, back in 2015. So explain to me, to the listeners, how we will be using, because I presume if you are successful, and I hope you are, that this will be universally adopted. You're interested really in commercial buildings. You're not thinking of this for the home. So I presume it'll be used for the home eventually. Yeah, it's mainly for commercial buildings. So if you're a landlord with a big portfolio, we'll say an office building, a university campus, an airport, a government building, where you like what they call enterprise level software and hardware is in use. It's in situations like that where we see the biggest market for us. So John or Mary walks into the university, they're allowed to go in so far into the campus, but they're not allowed to go into the academic area or something like that, and all of it is determined by the phone. Exactly, yes. Your credentials are created by an administrator remotely, so it might be plugged into your HR policy or based on your pay grade, or you might be a one-stop visitor, and so it's giving people time-restricted access in the future. That'll be terrible, based on your pay grade. Everybody knows that you're paid less than them because, sorry, I can't go through that door. Maybe it drives you more to try to get up the ladder. Yeah. I want to get the new ping. Yeah, no. I mean, for example, you'd have recurring access would be for the maintenance people, people doing cleaning and things like that. They'd have access, maybe 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, it creates an audit trail as well on the users by unique identifiers. By the way, there's no names or addresses in there or the colour of your eyes and that kind of stuff. It's all protected and encrypted. Where are you with this? We finished research and development late 2019. We started installing in London late 19, early 2021. What kind of buildings in London or what kind of units in London? Social housing sector. It's a big market in the UK, a very mature market compared to here. So that went well. And then, of course, the thing happened. And was that good for you? I always imagined, because obviously I've known you some years, yeah. I thought that would have been really good for business. We thought the same. We thought, my God, in some respects, bad things happen, but it could be an opportunity as well. But it turned out that a lot of the big developers, because they just didn't know what was happening, were almost on pause. Because they didn't know whether in 6 months' time, when people get back to the office, or 12 months' time, whenever this thing is over, are the banks going to give that company the money to buy a lease, or pay for a lease, or to buy an office building, or buy an apartment building? So there's just a lot of people just waiting and seeing for the moment. How big is the market? Well, real estate is the biggest market in the world. Yeah. Bigger than gold. But for you? Yeah, for us... You've obviously sat, as I mentioned, in the aforementioned bath, and you were working out that there are 5 billion apartments and etc. Yeah, what we had to pick one particular sector. So we chose the social housing sector in the UK and offices in the UK. And it's a €3 billion opportunity.
Now, what does that mean, 3 billion? You're not going to get 3 billion of turnover.
No, we're not, no. But we'd hope we can maybe get 5, 6, 7% of that over the next 4 or 5 years.
Not per annum?
Per annum.
That's a big number.
It's a big number, yeah. But, aim high, miss low, as I say.
Yeah. And how are you going to get there? What size are you at the moment?
In terms of team,
yeah,
we're a team of 7 people.
Yeah,
we're just going through a round raising funds at the moment to build up that team.
That's what I really wanted to get to. Tell me about that.
So yeah, we started this fundraising process a few months ago. In
the middle of a pandemic. That's the easiest time to get money, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it can be a time of opportunity to identify something that. People will realise that this technology can go very well, shall we say, in 2021, 2022. So, we looked at, previously friends and family invested, and we decided this time, okay, if we're going to raise money, let's try and raise more money than we're going to need for the next, there's 24 months runway.
Which is how much money you're trying to raise?
Between 4 and 5 million euros.
That is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I suppose now that we got... credibility in terms of getting the patent in the United States.
Talk to me about that, because whenever I hear patent, I hear very expensive, not very easy to get.
Very difficult, yeah. We spent 5 years fighting with the US Patent Office in the United States.
Now, what does that actually mean, 5 years? Were you working on it a day, a month, or were you working on it an hour, a week, or...?
Probably about 2 or 3 days every month.
Over 5 years?
Yeah.
That's a massive personal investment.
You're going back and forth with the patent examiner and your patent attorney, and the patent examiner. He or she might go back to, well, look at this patent from 1982 or this one from 1920, whatever. It's similar to this, and you've got to prove it. It's not similar, and it's an improvement. And there was many times we thought about giving up on it because it was just the stress of it. Never mind the cost of it. But we stuck with it, and normally patents in the United States, give it, take it 2 or 3 years, maybe faster, depends. It could be a year. We went 5 years, and it was an uphill battle.
But you have it.
We have it now. Yeah.
What will that protect you from?
So, like I said, number one, it gives us credibility going to the market in the United States. It changes the conversation. We were having a conversation about raising finance from serious investors when you're trying to raise that kind of money. But it also means we have the confidence now to go into the American market, whereas, before that, we weren't even thinking about going into America until about 2023. So now we're going to go in there earlier and be a bit more boisterous, I suppose, and about aggressive, I suppose, in our approach to growing.
And that assumes that you get the money?
Assume we get the money, yeah.
What's the likelihood?
So far, I would say very positive. People are very excited about what we're doing. They know we have the team from having conversations with different potential investors, and now we have the patent. It's the conversation has this pendulum has swung to our side, I suppose. When
were you told about this patent? Only very, very recently.
I found out about it a couple of months ago. I got a thing called a notice of allowance, which is just to say yes, we're going to grant it. And then you got to sign more papers, pay more fees, and we'll actually have it physically in our hand next month.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. So that's a nice...
We're waiting till the new year to announce it because there's so much stuff going on before Christmas, we didn't see any merit in that.
Okay, but you're now announcing it, and it's a kind of a late Christmas present for you. Yeah. So with all the money, if you can raise it, and I hope you can, and I'm hoping that this podcast will help if anybody out there wants to back a really interesting area, and as you say yourself, you're only tipping in to the social housing in the UK. When you start moving into the US... Where are you going to try to sell to there?
We're going into the office market and the apartment blocks and things like that. People with big portfolios, REITs, and anything really, if buildings over 50,000 square feet in size.
Okay.
Large buildings.
Tell me some of the shocking stories that I love a good shocking story about people being locked out. But I'm actually, once I started thinking about this, I said, geez, imagine being locked in. Does that happen?
Not really, no, because I wouldn't say locked in, because every lock, a hotel door lock or whatever it is, they'll always open out.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about that. But what has happened in the past 12 months, and what will happen this year is hackers are going to be, the growth of IoT and connected devices, your Alexa device or your smart lock or your connected camera or your connected doorbell, whatever it may be. The proliferation of these devices has been crazy in the last 2 years. And I know there's going to be 5 or maybe 50 billion devices before the end of 2030. But a lot of these companies in the rush to market haven't thought about security. So what we know, what we predict is going to happen this year, the hackers are going to target a building in Dublin, London, New York, or Tokyo or somewhere, and they're going to lock it. They're going to lock all the doors. You can't get in. They're going to switch off the air conditioning, turn up the heating, make it uncomfortable. It's going to be probably the new form of attack to get ransom money.
So that'll be it. They'll just say pay it and/or.
That's it.
Yeah.
I suppose from the very start, the most important thing for me, my background, I was an investment landlord for about 15 years. When we started talking about developing this technology, I said the most important thing is the security of the tenants. I said if I know that the tenant is secure in the building, and I said I know that the data privacy is secure, I said I'll be happy. We can build, there are foundation stones, we can build on top of that. So we've probably gone way beyond the industry standards and norms in terms of security. So we're trying to build a big enough barrier that when hackers come along to, we'll say, one of our buildings, they look at it and go, okay, forget about that, let's move on to the easier one down the street. It's like back in the 80s when they introduced the house alarm, the burglars went for the house without the house alarm.
And the build then from, always interested, from Dingle. I love the idea that you're going to take on the world from probably one of the most beautiful small villages in the world.
Yeah.
No problems at all doing that?
No, I'm so happy. I live in a bit of paradise in Dingle, yeah. It's
not easy to get to the United States of America from there.
We've got Kerry Airport, connectivity to Dublin, London. Shannon's only 2 hours up the road. We've got 1 gig of connectivity in the town now. We've been a remote team from the start. Some of our team are based in Limerick, Dublin. We have a small little office in Bucharest, in Romania. So yeah, we've always been remote anyway, so I don't really care where people live. You might as well live in some place you like living in.
It's, as you said, bloody paradise down there. It's gorgeous, yeah. So no problems there. And nobody bothers, they don't feel that they need to see you in some high-rise in Manhattan to take you seriously? I'm actually a personal fan of meeting the face-to-face and, press the flesh and all that. Yeah. But obviously we can't do that now. Yeah. So Zoom is fine, we just get on with it and it's just a new way of doing business. And to move on from your Sonic Handshake, you have bigger plans. Talk to me about your spine.
So some of the team don't actually like that name, the digital spine, but it's what we're calling technology that we're building at the moment, a new product. And my colleagues in the software side of things will kill me when I say this, but it's an operating system for a building.
Explain.
So basically, at the moment, in any big office building, we say we're in the Dundrum town centre, and the operators of this town centre probably have about 6 or 7 different dashboards of information. So they have a building management systems information. They'll have the facilities management, property management information.
So they'll give you air conditioning, fire alarms.
Another dashboard, smoke alarms, cameras, CCTV, all these different data sets coming in. And so you got to train your staff to use all these different data sets. And the hassle going from one to the other. And they're all siloed and not connected. So what we're doing to enable us to stand off in a crowd is we're building a platform for platforms, a universal translator. So that we'll be able to take the data from all these different data sets and translate them into one easy-to-use language and present it in an easy-to-use dashboard for our clients.
You have gone very public about this. It's up on your website, etc. You obviously were pretty advanced with it because obviously it is replicable.
I suppose we spent 5 years in R&D building our hardware for the Sonic Handshake. While we're doing that, we also built it in such a way that the hardware would monitor utilities and other data as well as that's flying around there in the air. So we spent a lot of time, the right sensors, the right microchips, all the different parts, the supply chain and all that. So I suppose we've all the really hard dog work done. It's a matter now of integrating all the data sets that are sent from all those different platforms onto one and translating it.
And have you found a guinea pig Have you fitted this spine into any building so far?
We have a building identified in Limerick, and we'll be going on site in March
of this year, 2021.
Yeah.
And how long after that do you test for? Or?
Yeah, we're already analysing data from different technologies, so we've a lot of the R&D work done. So we'll be selling this product into the market as quick as Q4 this year.
Well, that's very good. And that's a separate market for you. How big is that market?
It's
as big as you can probably roll it out.
Yeah, as fast as we can do it.
Where are you going to get all these people who are going to work for you? Because you will need them on, as you say, boots on the ground.
Yeah, well, we have good relationship with the University of Limerick. We also have, like I said, an office in Bucharest. Romanian people are super well educated and great attitude to work. So we've had a lot of success in finding people there. But working with the IT in Tralee, the Munster Technological University, as it's called now. And
it's great to see that move down to
very positive.
Yeah.
It's great for the region.
Yeah.
Great for the confidence. And University of Limerick, we can find the right people.
But I'm thinking more about the salespeople.
Salespeople on the ground,
yeah.
London, Dublin. That'll be the first port of call. We're trying to identify people in my network at the moment that could
so anybody who wants or can deliver big buildings. So presumably do you look for architects, for engineers? Do you look
architects is always a good way to get into buildings.
Yeah.
They're planning, of course, a couple of years ahead.
Of course, yeah.
But architects, engineering firms, and of course the real estate portfolio owners themselves are the operators.
Okay, so and how do you advertise or how do you get the market this as a concept?
Well, at the moment we're using our own network of contacts in real estate, but also we work with a company called Property District here in Dublin. They do a lot of work for us in marketing, and so between that company and our own network really is how we're expanding.
So what can Team GBS, that's our listeners, what can they do for you?
Well, as we already said, we're looking to fundraise. We're in deep discussions with some people at the moment.
But they're particularly there. You're actually talking about bigger players, the VCs.
Yeah, it's I suppose if there's anybody out there listening, in what they call family offices or private equity connections, particularly if they have an interest in real estate and technology, it may help. We'd like to hear from you.
You can contact Damien Browne with an E. He's one of the posh Browns, isn't that
right? Yeah. Far from it. Damien with an E at standardaccess.co.
And we will, of course, put all of that up onto our website and onto our LinkedIn pages, etc. And if you do, Damien, find your monies through That Great Business Show people, we'd love to hear about those kinds of successes. Thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thank you, Colin.
Subscribe today to That Great Business Show on your favourite podcast platform, including Apple and Spotify.
This episode's great big pivot on That Great Business Show comes from Mayo woman Tracy Armstrong, co-founder of KO Kombucha. Kombucha KO? Yes. It's an ancient raw fermented tea that is said to be really good stuff for your gut. 3 years ago, Tracy plus partner Ronan chucked the bright lights of London, where she was circulation marketing manager at the hugely successful Hello magazine, and headed back to Ireland to Ferbane in County Offaly, where they set up KO Kombucha. And why? Well, as you'll hear, it's the familiar tale of someone who got the itch to do something for herself, and nothing would or could satisfy her until she had created her own brand, that is KO Kombucha. Welcome to That Great Business Show, Tracy Armstrong.
Thank you very much.
You were doing ginormously well with a ginormous brand, which is Hello Magazine. Everybody listening knows Hello Magazine.
Yes.
No doubt you're rubbing shoulders with the rich, famous and the crazies.
I was, yeah. Well, I was working in the circulation department, so it's the...
Did you ever see anybody?
I did, yeah. You'd have a few people in and out of the office sometime, like the Hoff was in there once, and who else? You just walk by meeting rooms and you'd see like Noel Edmonds, or like they weren't the huge ones. The huge ones never came down to the commercial floor.
You have to go out to see the huge ones, do you?
Yeah, I was the editor that she gets to go to all the crazy events. And my boss, the publishing director, she would have got to go to Wimbledon and those kind of places. That's where you'd meet them.
Your background was in marketing.
Yeah.
You have ended up with your own fermented tea.
Yes.
You say kombucha, I say kombucha. Why? What? You know, where's the pivot? I can see no connection at all.
Yeah, well, I guess there is no connection with the product itself. But I just always wanted to have my own business, and same with my partner, Ronan. And I had that itch for quite a long time. Like when you're working with a big company, and it's great, and Hello was a lovely place to work, but there's always somebody kind of, I guess, in control of how far you can get or where you can get to or how much money you can make.
But you were going to go to the top.
Yeah, but the top, it wasn't my top. It was the owner of Hello's top, you know, and that's it's a Spanish company. So it's a guy over in Madrid. It's his top, you know. So
were you sitting in your apartment or wherever you lived in London thinking this, you know, what got you to say 3 years ago, we're out of here?
Well, there was a few things that kind of happened. Firstly, wanting to start my own business. Managing big budgets for a company and making loads of money and thinking maybe I could make myself a bit of money. So that was one itch to scratch to see if I could do it. Secondly, we had both thought that we wanted to do that, and we had discovered kombucha in London, and that was discovered by my partner Ronan. So he was always kind of looking for natural ways to fix his own gut and his own immune system, because he used to always get like sniffles and, you know, quite often. And he'd heard about kombucha and researched it. And then, of course, living in London, we found it locally. So what we found was like there was either a fizzy soft drink kombucha, which isn't really kombucha, or then on the other side, there was a vinegar kombucha. So he started brewing it himself, and he wanted to strike a balance between the two.
Where were you brewing? Or where was he brewing?
Just at home. In
your little apartment?
Our little apartment in London, yeah. So we started doing that and selling that then to friends, colleagues, my colleagues in Hello. And always everyone would come back and want more. So, and at the time, then the Brexit vote happened. So that was a final, I guess, nail in the coffin of saying, okay, like we're at a crossroads here. Like, what do we do? And we decided we'd go back to Ireland. And we still didn't know what we were going to do. But the kombucha was just happening in the background. And then we looked at the kombucha market. We actually looked at it properly and saw, okay, like there's a trend here that's happening. And this drink is going to get more and more popular. Then we looked at what was on the market in Ireland, and we saw a gap for a real craft kombucha.
So we better give a big shout out now to Paula Fitzsimons, who introduced me to you, because you are or were on the Back to Business program. Is that right? I'd say Back for Business program.
Yeah. And I came back for business.
And what is that program?
So that program, it's a government-funded program. So it's just about helping returning immigrants who have returned to Ireland to set up a business. So facilitating that. So there's...
What did it do for you?
For me, it was all about the network. So the network is one thing, that you meet other people with a shared experience. Like setting up your business can be lonely as it is as an entrepreneur. And then you couple that with having a hole in your network from being away, because we were away for 7 years. So it bridged that gap. You're meeting people with a similar experience, and then you have lead entrepreneurs. So there's 7 different entrepreneurs, 7 different groups, and they're just people you can learn from. And they teach you there's 7 different workshops over 7 months.
Who was best?
Who was the best lead entrepreneur? Yeah. Possibly say. There was a few good ones though. Like in particular this year, I got to meet Thomas Ennis. So he owns the Spar Group in Dublin.
That's a useful contact.
Yeah, for my product. So you just don't know when things will fit like that. And this year for me, like it's not just that year, it's kind of a follow-on thing. And always keep in touch with Paula. Like she's always giving shout outs to female entrepreneurs. So
she is fantastic. She is
really,
a huge supporter. And we support her, yeah. So back to, you decide we are heading back to Ireland, and then you chose the well-known centre of all kombucha in Ireland, Ferbane. Well, you didn't go directly to Ferbane, but you are now in Ferbane.
We're now in Ferbane. We went from London to Moat, and we set up the business in our spare room in Moat. So we started with 1 tank of kombucha and 1 shop, which was a local shop in Athlone. And we just built the business from 1 shop to 10 shops to 100 shops. I
never accept people saying that to me. I just went and got 1 shop, 10 and 100. Tell me about the graft, the grind.
Oh, yeah, like it's one shop and you go into one shop and you talk to one shop. And
what did you say? When you walked in that first day? Because other people will learn from you now to say, God, I heard this woman on that great business show and she just did this. Yeah. What did you do?
Well, it's all about picking the right shops. I didn't just pick any shop. I picked this particular shop. It's called Low & Co. It's an organic shop in Athlone. And the lady that runs it in there, Linda, she's so enthusiastic about organic products, and she was so happy to have a product come back to the Midlands. So she just was like 100% like, we would stock it, no problem, just come back when it's ready. So we came back as soon as it was ready, and that's when we got our first bottles on the shelves. And literally... Is this from your, apartment, house?
Apartment,
apart again?
Yeah.
You're very good at this. I won't even ask whether the landlords, anybody know about this or whether you're compliant, but we'll assume that it's all good stuff.
All good.
So you toddle down to Low & Co.
Yeah.
And you dump your bottles there. What was remind me of how happy you were on your first sale.
Oh my God, we were so happy. Like it was such a huge, you'd never meet that feeling. I remember standing outside at the apartment and it was at nighttime and it was in November. And I just remember just standing there going, oh my God, I can't believe we've been listed in one shop. Like, as if it was the biggest thing in the world.
Which it is at that stage, of course.
It is at that stage, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just went into Linda and she just loved them. And we're still on sale in her shop 3 years later. So,
can you remember the first bottle that was sold? I don't mean did you actually see it, but were you told... sold a bottle?
Oh yeah, because she sold out within a few days. So she came back and said, "Can I get more?" And we were like, "Oh my God, yeah, of course."
So you are in Moat. You're selling in Athlone. What happens next?
So from there we went to more shops. So we targeted the Midlands and then Galway and Dublin. They were that was our strategy to kind of just go across the middle. Yeah, and we're an hour from both places. So we were in the Midlands. So yeah, we just started building up from there. We started with 1 store, then we got to 10 stores. And then in May of 2018, I'd say that was our official launch. We did an event called Wellfest. And I think at that stage we were maybe in 20 stores.
Wellfest, was that down in Herbert Park?
It was the year after that, it was in Kilmainham.
Okay.
I think it was the first year in Kilmainham, yeah. So that
Seems
was
like 100 years ago now. But anyway.
I know, when you could actually go to events and meet real people. But it was... That was our kind of official launch, and we were stocked in 20 places. But even at that event, I remember we ran out of sample cups on the first day. So we thought, okay, we might have something here,
And there are competitors.
There are competitors, yeah.
Talk to me about them. They're brilliant, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're brilliant. Look, competitors are great. I will say that...
Everybody says that. You hate your competitors. Go on.
No, look, the rising tide raises all ships. So all good on the competitor front. But we do have something different in that how we brew our kombucha, we make ours in the traditional way. So I guess not all kombuchas are created equal. So ours is a small batch craft kombucha. It's made in 100-litre tanks. We're going to scale it that way because we've created a small batch model that's scalable for growth. So with the bigger competitors, bigger companies, yeah, they make kombucha, but is the kombucha going to work as well as a traditionally made kombucha? So that's for the customer to decide. The only gripe that I have is that it's not clear on the label what's been processed and what's not been processed. It's kind of like if you have freshly squeezed orange juice or orange juice from concentrate. So which one do you prefer? The customer can choose because they understand that. But with kombucha, everything's kombucha. So the customer can't really tell the difference.
It's a premium product.
Yes, it is.
I won't say it's expensive, it's value.
It is expensive. It's the most expensive kombucha because...
She said proudly.
You can't really make kombucha cheaply. And if it's cheap for a reason. There are discount kombuchas out there.
How much is a bottle?
It retails anywhere from $3.50 to $3.95 in retail. But then we also sell online, direct to consumer by the case. So
and ideally you have one of those a day or something? Or
yeah, 1 a day is good. Yeah.
2 is better. 3 is even fantastic.
Well, you see, as much as makes you feel good. You can't, because everyone is different. There isn't really a one-size-fits-all of you drink one and it's going to be great. And kombucha is not a panacea to all ales. It's just something to be enjoyed as part of a healthy lifestyle.
Because you can make no claims. Sure you can't.
You can't make claims. So what we have is anecdotal evidence. We have many, many customers who have many different ailments. But we don't have a scientific cert to back that up. But we have people with Crohn's disease. We have people with digestive problems. I have a guy with psoriasis who has shown me his arms before and after drinking our kombucha. I have a cancer patient who says it's the only thing that she can keep down. And just like so many people who come back and they want the real one.
Now, what's the actual history of kombucha? Was it
so it's an ancient drink. Like it's
from where?
From Asia. They think in China. They used to give it to like the emperors and stuff over there. But it's made from tea, water, sugar, and what's called a SCOBY. So SCOBY is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So similar to apple cider vinegar has the mother culture, kombucha's mother culture is called the SCOBY. So that's, I guess, grows on every batch of kombucha. It's like a gel pellicle, and that's the kind of magic ingredient, the good bacteria. So you have bad bacteria and good bacteria in your gut, and kombucha and other fermented foods help to balance out that bad bacteria in your gut.
You mentioned that you're making, is it 100 litres per batch?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that you can scale that out from there. How do you do that?
We just add more tanks and more people. And we plan to.
So you're going to buy another few apartments, is it? Or
no, you actually we have actually costed it all out because we had to do all this. You have to do your projections when you're in business. But we need about 80 tanks. Say if we were to hit €1 million turnover, we would need 80 tanks. So we have 30 tanks at the moment. So.
And where do you put 80 tanks? So are we now moving into an industrial unit?
You would need,
Okay.
So we think that we can scale up to a certain point where we are. And then after that, we'd have to.
Now, we stopped off at Moat.
Yeah.
And we're now in Ferbane. Now, tell me about the road from Moat to Ferbane.
From Ferbane onwards, you mean?
No, from how you got to...
So that was the first scale, I guess. So we had our spare room, which we converted into a brewery. And everyone was like, what are you doing? Why can we not stay here? So we had like 3 tanks, and then we had 4, I think we got up to 5 tanks in that room. Then we brought them over to Ferbane, and we've just been adding tanks ever since.
And lots of good things about Ferbane, but why Ferbane?
Ferbane, it's because it had a food grade premises that was there and that was ready that we could just move straight into.
That is very nice.
Yeah, so it's good.
Who supplies that? You are backed, I think, by the Leo, are you?
We're backed by Leo, yeah, and
That is Leo in Offaly?
Offaly, yeah. We started with the Westmeath Leo, and then we moved to Offaly, so we're doing with the Offaly Leo, and then Enterprise Ireland.
Because you are going for growth.
We won CSF.
Yeah.
So
which is the Competitive Startup Fund,
yeah.
which gives you
50 grand, which is great, and loads of
mentorship.
From
Who have you got as your mentors? Anybody that you want to shout out for? Because some of those mentors are ... bloody brilliant.
Yeah, they are. Our mentor currently is a guy called Frank Fenn. And he's great. Like, it's just great to have that sounding board. And he was the ex-CEO of Bailey's.
Well, that always helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's somebody that's in the drinks game. So, I mean, the amount of knowledge that he has is just fantastic.
And what are you going to use your 50 grand for? You can't go on holidays with it at the moment. So,
no, not yet. Well, it's used to hire somebody was our first thing, and just to reduce our cost per unit and to just scale the business.
I love this. You're talking like a proper business. Reduce cost per... When you were in Hello, were you reducing cost per unit?
That was one of my jobs. I had to watch all the printing invoices that come in. I had to kind of check them off, and that was
see
part
if you
of
could squeeze somebody for 10 cents or something.
Yeah, that was part of my job. But it's all adds to your bottom line.
Absolutely. So, paint me the future.
So the future is just to keep scaling where we are for the moment. And then beyond that, we would like to build a brewery in the Midlands. So that would be like a place where we can show people how we brew our kombucha, potentially just have like a little cafe or fermented foods cafe, where we can showcase all the different types of fermented foods. So we'd love to keep that in the Midlands and keep our production in the Midlands and bring employment to a rural area that doesn't have much employment. So that's definitely part of the future.
The partner is part of this because he is from there, isn't he?
He's from there. And Ronan is the head brewer of the product. So he makes the kombucha. So he's 100% part of the business. And then the future for, I guess, the category of kombucha. So kombucha is part of the fermented foods category. So you've got kombucha, you've got kefir, you've got natural yogurt, sauerkraut and kimchi. So I'd say they're the 5 main ones, and they're the ones that have the beneficial bacteria. So we want to establish a fermented foods group. So similar to have all your different foods groups, we would like to establish that category within the retail sphere.
Because one of the issues that you have is that you are put into the soft drinks or besides the fizzy drinks and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think sometimes they don't know where to put it because it doesn't sit with the soft drinks and it doesn't sit with anywhere else. They don't know where to put it. So I think the fermented foods group will eventually be an area, and you'll have all your different types of kombucha. Then you can have a premium one, you can have a cheaper one, and then the customer can be aware of that and they can make their own choice of which one they want to choose.
And if you are backed by Enterprise Ireland, that means that you have ambitions towards getting off the island.
Yeah, we do, definitely.
Where will you go and what are you looking for? Can Team GBS, we like calling our listeners Team GBS, that great business show, can they help?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to go beyond Ireland, and we would like to... the markets that we're looking at are the UK. Obviously, we just have to see how things pan out with Brexit, but the UK is the closest one to us. So whether that's Northern Ireland or in the mainland UK, and then beyond that, the Netherlands and France would be... Why
the Netherlands? Are they big on kombucha?
Not that they're hugely big on kombucha, but I think they just have a developed food palette that would be... And they don't have much kombucha. Like the European kombucha market is so wide open. So you could pick any country in Europe, really. It's a very new market. So it's completely
So what can Team GBS do for you? Do you need funding? Do you want doors open? Do you want people to... Well, obviously you want people to stock you. Actually, you told me, and I'm going to do this again because I'm going to try to embarrass them eventually. Oh. You'd love to be in O'Brien's.
Oh, no, I think that was Karen from Beacon Batch.
No, I spoke with Karen about it and we still haven't got Karen into O'Brien's, but I'm going to make sure that we keep at it. Would you like to be listed in O'Brien's?
I would, actually. It's a great non-alcoholic option.
Exactly, and they need to have that.
Yeah, exactly.
As they're part of corporate social responsibility. How about that? That's a nice twist, isn't it?
There you go, yeah.
And the other thing that you should swear to me, so I won't see your fingers crossed, you can promise that there's going to be a massive feature in Hello Magazine about you.
Oh, there will, definitely. When the time is right, 100%.
And when are you heading overseas?
With the product?
Yeah.
Well, we'd hope this year at some point.
That's 2021.
Yeah, we're researching it at the moment, and we just have to... It's a chilled product as well, so it has a few, and it's got a short shelf life.
Well, now, I looked at that. When people think short, we might think a week.
It's 4 months. It's 4 months, yeah. But for a product like that, like places wanted to have a year's shelf life, but we want to keep our shelf life short because we feel like that will preserve the living cultures of the drink. And if my product is sitting on a shelf for 12 months, I don't know if that's the right shelf for it. So there are a few challenges to get over, but definitely looking at how we can make it happen this year.
Has it cured your itch?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Definitely. Never do this again. No, it definitely has. It's great. It's a challenge. Like, you've got ups and downs, and it's
Anything
a real
awful?
roller coaster.
Did you ever go home and say, this is just too much?
Yes. Oh, loads of times. Okay. You have days like that.
Okay, you're a real business person.
Yeah,
so
yeah, you do. And then working with your partner it's really hard as well to switch off and stop.
Well, there is no switching off, is there?
Yeah, so you have to find a balance, and we
the weekly shop must be awful. Say, look at that! Oh God, look at that! That drink shouldn't be there. Our drink should.
Swapping out the drinks.
That is fantastic story and continued success. And I mean, it's only the early days. And if there is anything that we can do for you, please come back and tell us, and we will back you, because that is what we do on Team GBS. That is Tracy Armstrong. Anybody who wants you, so you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're saying it.
Well,
but if they want us there, it's on our website, and we sell in retail, and then we sell by the case online as well. So
and I'm going to say this now, and it's KO because it's knockout, and it is a knockout drink. You like that?
Knockout dose of goodness for your gut.
And okay. And Tracy without an EY, she's Tracy with a Y.
Yep.
Armstrong, and you'll find her on LinkedIn, because I think I linked with you this morning, did I?
You did.
Yes, indeed. So you'll find her there. Okay, that is it from thatgreatbusinessshow.com. A special thanks this week to a new team member here at the Dublin South FM podcast studios, as today's sound engineer was or is Keith Stars. And my thanks also to post-production editor Peter Rice. The Good Scout of the Week award goes this week to Pat Flynn, chairman of Flynn O'Driscoll Lawyers, for recommending his colleague Caoimhe that you heard earlier. Regular listeners know that our aim is to bring you brilliant businesses from inside and outside the pale, and we're committed to gender balance on every show, so we're always looking for great women-led or founded businesses. If you know of one, or better still, if you are one, click on the Share Your Story button on our website, thatgreatbusinessshow.com. Our thanks to our sponsors, De Facto Shaving Oil. Change your polluting ways today. Stop using non-recyclable cans of shaving foam. Start using all-natural, sustainable De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Do follow us on our LinkedIn pages, where we give you bonus information and a sneak peek of what's coming up on the podcast. And of course, we are available on every good podcast channel. So, as my regular co-host Jamie Heaslip is prone to say, until the next time,